This chapter is so good that God Valley deserves to be a One Piece movie. Reverse Rocks has been unleashed. The cover request of One Piece chapter 1164, titled Davy's Blood, features an Alice in Wonderland inspired shot of Perona chasing after a rabbit holding a pocket watch, and he seems to remind her of Mihawk. After being hit with Dami Reversi, Rocks cried out in agony. The other fighters looked up with concern. Roger couldn't believe that their combined attacks couldn't even make the spider monster flinch. Garp was at a loss for words. Whitebeard was concerned about his captain. Kaido was just there, and Big Mom looked up in confusion. Even after being hit by Dami Reversi, Rocks was stubborn enough to hold out against it. Wheezing, he told the beast not to underestimate humans. So is this just a matter of the Celestials classifying themselves as something else, or outright confirmation that Imu is not human at all? Imu stared at him with daunting eyes. With fangs jetting from his mouth and sweat covering his face, Rocks declared the name of his ancestor, Davy D. Jones, the name of the previous king of the world. Guys, does this mean that Davy Jones was the ruler of the ancient kingdom? Imu's gaze flared with outrage. Mu rebuked the statement. It refused to acknowledge that Davy Jones was ever king for even a moment, then made it clear that Rocks has nothing to do with the fate that connects Imu to Davy Jones. So there's just so much going on behind the scenes that we don't really know about. But if that were true, then Rocks didn't see why Imu would be so upset over a name. Smiling despite his fate, Rocks mocked the Rat King. He assumed that Imu must have been afraid for a very long time. Afraid that the day would eventually come when someone would inherit Davy's will and fulfill the promise. In fact, Rocks had to wonder who scares Imu more, Davy D. Jones or Joy Boy. Imu was livid. Mu claimed that so long as Rocks is wiped from history, then those two enemies would never resurface. But of course, Luffy and Blackbeard are causing all kinds of trouble in the present day. Imu let Rocks know that Mu was on the verge of possessing the perfect soldiers, a nation of gentle and indecisive giants. The mention of Elbaf made it Rocks' turn to be outraged. He told the creature to stay away from King Harold, that the man only wants peace. Imu considered that to be an unprecedented opportunity. Such a controllable ruler may never come again. Mu planned to put King Harold through something very similar to Rocks' current predicament. And with the vanishing of his pupils, the windows to Rocks' soul were closed. As it was now time for him to put an end to Davy's dream. And suddenly, Blackbeard's dreams never die, and the mystery of Luffy's dream are even more interesting. Whitebeard gritted his teeth as Rocks cried out yet again. Then Rocks came crashing down right in front of him and Big Mom. Linlin approached him first, wondering if something happened, while Rocks began to mentally fade away. Linlin was caught off guard by his appearance. Rocks' face twisted into a smile as Imu issued the order for him to wipe out the Davy clan. Imu demanded that he call all obstacles on God Valley. Linlin uncertainly asked if Rocks had gotten bigger. Reverse Rocks told her to move aside. He planned to purge his target's blood from the annals of history. He leapt up and stabbed his saber into Kaido's draconic nose. The youngster yelped and asked his captain what the hell he was doing. But before he knew it, Kaido's body was moving. He was hurled into the side of a mountain, head first. Big Mom cried out. Reverse Rocks knocked him out in one hit with one arm. His smile never wavered. Linlin cursed as she sought to repay his treachery with a hit from Napoleon. So even after vowing to kill him herself, Big Sis Linlin still went up to bat for Kaido. That's real. Unfortunately, Rocks defeated the nigh invulnerable Big Mom with a single hit. She was sent careening into a mountain, while Whitebeard locked in. When Rocks lunged in his direction, Whitebeard asked his captain if he and the rest of the crew were in his way. Rox confirmed as much, while Whitebeard prepared himself. He met Rox's saber head on. No Murakumogiri, his bare hands. The wicked smile of Reverse Rox didn't budge. Whitebeard couldn't hold him back. With an eruption of Haki, it was as if a massive explosion had been detonated. The Marines on the scene paled at the sight of what came next. One of God Valley's two largest mountains began to fall. Marines ran for their lives, and I can't be the only one who's reminded of 2001 here. Rox ran after his prey. The mountain hit the ground. Pirates were caught up in the fallout. Eris was still running away with Little Teach. And just like that, every Marine warship on the northeast coast had been wiped out. And after what they participated in, serves them right. But with that, all ships were commanded to withdraw from the lost cause of an island. Reverse Rox really just took an unbridled natural disaster head on and came out unscathed. And before anyone talks about this not being Whitebeard's prime, sure, fair enough. But we saw that he's already strong enough to sink an entire island with a single quake when they raided the charity scam. The scaling here is insane, they just knocked down this big mountain. But unfortunately, the Celestial Dragons were on the northeast coast. Oda's trolling us by having these scumbags just barely survive. They demanded to know who was responsible for the close call and deemed it an unforgivable act. Little do they know, they're complaining about the Supreme One's decision here. Marines urged the Celestials to hurry onto the ship. In response, the nobles threatened them with death in the event that they set sail without them. Rayleigh, Shaki, Doringo, and other members of Roger's crew were in the southwestern region. They were leaving God Valley too, but Rayleigh was worried about their captain. Some surviving pirates were excited to be making off with whatever treasures they managed to find, but then they found a dead end that soured the mood. Elsewhere, Dragon was shaking with self-loathing at his failure to save even a single baby. He pounded the ground, wondering where Shanks had gone. Poor guy. But since he's still on the island, then I assume that means there's still something important for him to do. At the same time, an injured Kuma was being urged to call it quits by Eva and Ginny. But the young buccaneer figured that there might still be some people who need his help to get off the island. And just then, he spotted such a person. From there, we'd see Captain John reeling from Ganzui foiling his betrayal with an explosive booger flick, while Ganzui himself had been laid out by Shiki. He swore not to let the jerk leave the island alive. Too bad for him, we know Shiki survives this. And Shiki was flying off with at least 1 billion berry worth of treasure on his back. Marines were ordered to flee. They needed stretchers to carry their wounded. But with the forest now on fire, things were not looking good. Just then, Rox parted the trees to find his beloved wife and child. Eris looked in his direction and was heartbroken by what she saw. With tears flooding her eyes, she accepted that Rox had lost. She apologized and blamed herself. After all, Rox expedited his reunion with Imu just to save his family. Eris held Teach close. They were on the verge of hitting the coast. She figured that their only choice was to jump into the sea and swim from there. Otherwise, it would be the end of the Davy clan forever. Eris screamed her promise to survive. But that's when the Marines caught sight of their escape attempt. From behind, there was Rox with his sword raised, while in front, there was a simultaneous cannon fire of 2 Marine warships. Eris and Teach could only stare at their incoming demise. Then Kuma sent them away. He looked at the impending danger and finally left himself. Talk about clutch. Kuma has saved the lives of 2 messiahs in 1 lifetime. But Rox followed through with his slash all the same. And one of the warships was annihilated. And again, serves them right. Imu could only see the destructive aftermath and none of the fine details. The king of the world then commanded him to kill everyone left on the island. It would be as if none of this had ever happened. The Marines were begging Garp to hurry up and leave with them as insistent Celestials kicked them around. But Garp was adamant. He already told them to leave and didn't want them sticking around any longer. Roger's crew asks where the heck their captain was. He let them know that he's fine, and he's hoping for a heads up when the whole crew makes it onto the ship. And true to his orders, Rox was cutting down everyone on the island, namely pirates who begged him to stop and wondered what was up with his appearance. And although he paid no heed to their cries, something else caught his attention. Garp and Roger both took a deep breath. Then, with all their might, they challenged Rox to a fight. Imu jerked with confusion at Rox's response. Reverse Rox landed in front of them in no time. Garp asked the pirate what the hell he'd become, while Roger refused to let Rox go after his crew. And this panel is just way too cool. This deserves to be a full-page spread. Just then, the fellow bearers of the D initial could hear Rox call out to them in their minds. Confused, they both heard the final plea of a legend through the voice of all things. Roger even does the signature ear-covering gesture, but Rox's expression threw them off even more. Their rival was crying. He begged them to kill him. Roger and Garp were horrified by the request, but as Rox lunged in for the attack, they didn't have any other choice. The long-awaited climax of the God Valley incident is finally upon us. The respect shared between these three is just so cool. When it comes to that sort of manliness and honorability, Oda's writing is unmatched. Speaking of which, argue with me if you want, but I think that Rox might just be the greatest post-time skip character that Oda has introduced thus far. The fact that he's able to resist Imu's control in any capacity is incredible. That being said though, this guy was already so strong that it's hard to gauge how much of a power-up he's gotten from this Dami Reversi. Although I'm sure the anime light show will give us a better idea later on. Again, God Valley is so good that it deserves to be a movie. Although, now that the One Piece anime is seasonal, it'll be a long time before we get there. In the comments, be sure to give it up for the best pirate to ever do it. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.